Hi everyone, it's Sam, NFTstatistics, and this is your Proof Daily NFT Countdown. Are we back? We had some massive sales on Friday on Sotheby's, followed up with 4 Fidenza sales over the past 24 hours, a bunch of chromey squiggles, and then some stuff that wasn't quite as positive. Let's get right into it. We're going to talk about that Sotheby's auction, a bit about this 6529 situation, as well as some cool art sales. Starting off with a quick market overview, volumes were up a fair bit yesterday. Now, that might sound like a good thing. Vast majority of the volume on Blur, about 77%. The reason I'm not as excited about it is because if you look at this chart is the percentage of sales on Blur where the seller dumped into a bid relative to overall volume. And you can see that only 15% of the sales were actually buyers picking their NFT. 85% of the sales yesterday were sellers dumping into bids. We'll talk a little bit more about that. So I don't think those volumes are all that good of a thing. If you look at where the volume was, I had kind of a little color coding situation here. The ones in red are situations where someone dumped a ton of NFTs into bids. The ones in orange are Bitcoin ordinals, and the ones in blue are just kind of normal collections. What you can see is that Bitcoin ordinals were actually pretty hot. Bitcoin frogs did about 3,300 ETH of volume. Mutant Apes did the most volume though, 4,400 because someone dumped 195. That's not fun. Looking at prices were pretty much flat over the weekend. Pudgy's really rallied. So up 17%. CloneX was strong. Not as pumped about that one. Gutters were a little bit weak. Looking at the mid cap index, some serious strength. And all this strength is really about Opepin. Opepin is really rallying. We've had some big sales there. We'll show you that in a second. Looking at Pudgy Penguins, Pudgy Penguins, the floor rose up to 6. It's holding about 5.8 right now. I think there's just a lot of momentum behind this Plushy Toys launch that they did. This is becoming one of the NFTs that if you're in the space, you want to own. Luca is just creating motion, doing things. Motion creates motion in this space. And there's just a lot of attention here, and that has done well. I say buy the rumor, sell the news. If you watch the show a lot, I've said that a lot. Here I kind of reversed them because here buying the news actually worked pretty well. So congrats to Pudgy Penguins. Congrats to Luca on that. Opepin Edition hitting recent highs. Floor price went up above 0.5 ETH. And I just think you're getting these big sales in those first 80 Opepins. People are starting to realize this is the way, this could be the way to play kind of the Jack Butcher theme, the Jack Butcher meta, his innovation right now. You had this sale here for 12 ETH. This is one of the most common of those first 80. There's a 1 of 1, a 1 of 4 or 5. This is one of the 1 of 40s, but still it's sold for 12 ETH. So awesome to see that all-time high Opepin sale. Now, I also mentioned kind of on the negative side that there were 3 huge Blur dumps on Saturday night. One airdrop farmer sold 190 Mutant Ape Yacht Club. Someone sold 370 Doodles. Someone sold 150 Miladies. And we've seen a lot of heaviness in those projects. It can take days, weeks, sometimes even months for big dumps to get absorbed by real holders because they go into the hands of more airdrop farmers. And those airdrop farmers eventually have to dump as well. So tends not to be a great thing for a project. Here is the chart for Doodles. You can see kind of crept back down towards 2 ETH, one of the kind of historic lows. Now, what this chart here looks at is these blue dots here. These are all the sales, and the blue ones are in ETH, and the red ones are when sellers dump into bids. And what you can see is that the airdrop farmer who got long 350 Doodles, I've been talking about him for a while. He's been long 350 Doodles for a long time. He basically came in with an alternative wallet and swept something like 30. And the goal there is to get these projects to the top of the Blur leaderboard, make it so you make more points, more airdrop farmers want to come in to bid, and then you have your exit liquidity who you can sell into. And that's basically exactly what happened. That bid went up, floor went up to about 2.65, and then he sold 370 all at once, took the floor down to about 2 ETH. The reason it didn't go below 2 ETH is because he started bidding himself, bought 85 back at 2 ETH. So a whole lot of craziness going on here. I don't think it's all that healthy for projects, but it is what it is. The reason I said I'm not as excited about the Clone X pump is because the same buyer, the same guy, the same airdrop farmer is long 350 Clone X, and overnight he swept Clone X. Price went up to 3.2. I shouldn't say he. An alternative new wallet that was recently funded bought something like 30 Clone X. Kind of the same thing we saw happen in Doodles. We have the same airdrop farmer who's trying to offload NFTs. So overall, that just doesn't strike me as a great situation. But let's look at our projects, because in our projects, I've been talking about how volumes have been low. We talked about it on 100 proof, but this weekend we had some serious volumes. And this was just the past 24 hours. 176 sales, 176 ETH of Fidenza sales. That says 3 trades. Another one happened 5 minutes ago that didn't get captured by this chart. There have been 4 Fidenza sales in the past 24 hours. Just a lot of volume for that project. Chromie Squiggles 10 sales in the past 24 hours. So a lot more volume than we're used to. Let's look at a few of them. Here's a Fidenza sold for 64.5 ETH. This Chromie squiggle, just a beautiful squiggle, 15.5 ETH. This is a color spread of 6. You can see all the different colors multiple times in that squiggle. There also was a pipe sale, I believe, at 27.28, one of the more rare types of Chromie squiggles. In the lower left, an anti-cyclone by William Upon for 9.8 ETH, well above the 6 ETH floor, kind of a color palette that tends to command a premium. And then this in the lower right is a Contractions by Lowy Hollowell, which sold for 2.8 ETH. The floor price for this project is about 4.5 ETH. So this was well below floor. This was an NFT that got dumped into a bid on OpenSea a little while ago for 2 ETH. And I think the person who got that just wanted to get out with a profit, so he did. Second thing to talk about, let's dive into Sotheby's, because this was really kind of a game-changing, crazy auction where a lot of big sales happened. Starting off, of course, with the Fidenza. This Fidenza sold for over $1 million, about 560 ETH, just a massive Fidenza sale for this micro, really kind of a beautiful piece here. Now, if you look at some of the top on-chain Fidenzas, it actually puts it number 5. If you look at the ETH price of it, it was 560 ETH. That makes it the 5th most expensive Fidenza sale relative to the on-chain ones that are recorded on OpenSea. I do believe that there was a sale for 2,500 ETH, which was not kind of recorded by OpenSea. But what is so cool about this project is each one of these sales looks totally different. They have their totally unique look and feel, but you can still 100% tell that they're all Fidenzas, which is just what makes it such a special project. A CryptoPunk on this Sotheby's auction sold for $165,000. That's 91 ETH. Now, that one was below where recent 3D glasses sales have been. You can see these are 4 of the 4 most recent 3D glasses sales, kind of all in that 100 to 127 ETH range, but not surprising because punks are down and grailness of NFTs in general is down. 2 huge ringer sales. This one on the left has a red background for 84 ETH. This one on the right sold for 52 ETH. I said huge, but if you look at red background ringers, like 84 ETH is actually not that high relative to what we've seen. So, the other most recent red background sales have all been kind of in this 150 all the way up to 700 ETH range. So that was a little bit more at a discount, but again, not surprising given the state of the market. And this is one, I just showed 2 that didn't have huge premiums. This autoglyph sold for 314 ETH, $571,000. I look back at autoglyph sales, kind of going back like a year and a half, and nothing has sold at that price. I mean, you've seen a lot in like this 180 to 250 ETH range, but this is one of the absolute top autoglyph sales that we have seen in well over a year. So just kind of a really strong price for that. Now, Mike Bohanna from Sotheby's said that the coming up next piece is the Goose, this ringer, one of the most expensive art blocks ever sold. And that's going to be in an auction on the 15th of June. Certainly a lot of momentum here. Now, I'd encourage you to go watch 100 Proof because Derek, Eli, and I talked about this auction on Friday before the prices came out. And we talked, would this auction have provenance, something special about it? I was kind of, I think there's something interesting here. I was a little bit more in the camp that like 3 Arrow Capital is not something we should get excited about buying their work. But clearly there was some je ne sais quoi, something special about this auction that people wanted to put big bids in, wanted to bid up art. And we definitely saw that, certainly some provenance. So gotta love to see it. This market just needs whatever boost we can get. So you gotta love to see that. Third thing to talk about, the 6529 card, where there was an artist with a history of scamming. I just kind of thought this was kind of an interesting story, did a little bit of digging. It was the 100th 6529 meme card that came out. Here was the art, kind of interesting art, but Zach XBT came out with a thread and basically said that the artist was a scammer, someone who had a history of kind of not being straightforward with people with deals he had done, kind of buying and selling and moving in and out of different Twitter accounts. And 6529 took it to heart. He said all week long, he had a feeling, not that this was a bad artist or an artist with kind of a bad history, but his feeling was that 6529er was the person who should be doing the 100th card. And then it kind of came to be. Now, he put out an 18 tweet thread. I encourage you to read it all. A few of the things that he said. I've known most of the artists to date, so he didn't really flag this as an attack vector, that an artist would be a scammer, someone with a history of scams. What they decided to do was replace the 100th card. So replace the metadata, basically replace that card with a card by 6529er. And Punk 6529 agreed. He placed a bid wall well above what people paid for anybody who wanted to sell card 100 back to him. So before they change it, 6529 is willing to buy at a decent price pretty much every card 100 from this artist that they can. And again, the metadata will be changed. So interesting solution there. I think he's just like, I don't want this to be, in the public record. I don't want, I want to make this right. I don't want to do nothing here. So that was a decision that they made. And 6529er will be making a card sooner than later. Interesting to see that. Now, this coming week, Jack Butcher is doing a card on Friday. So that is pretty exciting. And just kind of figured I'd update my 6529 meme cards chart, see how the prices have been. And we've really kind of been in this flat, stable mode for most of May. Of course, down a lot from where we were in January when this was really the meta, the project to own, but still kind of trending along nicely as it is. Last thing to talk about, let's talk about a few notable sales. Let's just talk about some art sales. Starting off with this piece, Sanctuary by Ryan Koopmans, sold for 25 ETH. Just a beautiful piece. This was done on Wild, which is another platform. So go check out Wild XYZ. I didn't even see this until Ryan flagged it to me. But awesome to see. Awesome to see this. It looks like Matrix VC was the buyer. Ryan Koopmans does these room scenes that just come to life with nature. Really beautiful work. And this was towards the high end of his range. You hear four sales that he's had in that 20 to 26 ETH range. Most of his sales have kind of been in the 10 to 25 ETH range. So getting a 25 ETH sale in this market is nothing to scoff at. Congrats to Ryan as well as the buyer there. This piece, Beach Club by OXDGB, sold for 5.825 ETH. He sold it for 6, but it registered as this, I think, because they removed the fees. This was when he tried to auction off. The auction didn't get bidders, and then he just said, hey, if anyone wants it, 6 ETH is the price. Someone came through a little while later. So just nice to see OXDGB. He's obviously been one of the most up-and-coming artists. Nice to see him kind of stick with it, keep this for sale, and get a buyer of it. In terms of his recent sales, this one in the upper left was a little bit on the low end of his range, but he's had a bunch of sales kind of in that 6 to 7 ETH range. So this fits in that pretty well. The one in the lower right, I believe, is all-time high. Not totally sure, but a 16.8 sale. So he's had some pretty big sales as well. Then I wanted to talk about one artist who I hadn't seen before, but really kind of cool work and in line with this piano theme. The Last Song by Hossein, Goshtabi, sold for 2.2 ETH. In the description, he said this was a self-portrait. Not sure, I assume that that's right. That was in the description of this piece. Really kind of this moody scene and bringing that piano into play. And then, obviously a pretty dramatic scene there. As far as other sales he has had, these two sold for 2.2, 1.65 ETH. It's worth it to go check out this artist's work. Just kind of all this moody, very thoughtful, cerebral stuff. Love to see that. So figured I would include that in the show. That is all from me today. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you had a great weekend. We will be back tomorrow and every weekday with another show. Like the show below, give us a like, subscribe to the channel, tell us what you think in the comments, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a great day.